Isn't this an incredibly insane turn of events? Yeah, the last couple of months on this channel, we've been cataloging everything that's been happening in the PC gaming space concerning hardware, components, and even the insane hunger of AI and data centers, especially with what's been going on with Nvidia and the Steam machine. And even then, what other companies or corporations are in fact doing with trying to screw over customers and consumers. And now it's finally come down to everyone else. All of the people online that have been claiming things like, oh, this won't impact console gaming. There's no way. They sell millions of consoles. They'll have to make actual long-term agreements. This won't impact us whatsoever. The real gamers won't have a problem. Well, it turns out the problem has been knocking on your door and it's ready to barge in. Because it turns out yesterday through an incredibly scathing report on Bloomberg that things are going to go to hell in a handbasket faster than people can actually admit. And I think the funniest part about all of this is I've been calling it out for the past 7 to 8 months right here. And it gets even crazier because not only are we going to be seeing consoles either increasing in prices or in fact being delayed, it turns out that we're also seeing massive companies in China now going around and trying to compete in the global RAM market to reduce the actual shortage and move people away from companies like SK Hynix, Micron, and Samsung and over to their brands instead. Oh yeah, the Great War on RAM is just getting started. Because according to WCCF Tech, someone imported DDR5 RAM from China to Germany, and even after hefty custom fees, it still ended up being about 50% cheaper than in-store prices. According to the customer, it's, quote, the nicest and highest quality RAM they've ever held. That's right, we are now getting to the point right now where as an actual consumer of PC gaming, it is in fact cheaper for you to go ahead and import the RAM from China, have a better quality piece of RAM altogether, and then at the same time still pay 50% less than in fact trying to buy it locally. The actual prices of RAM have been astronomically high across the board. Some people are even saying that it's cheaper to buy a 5090 than it is to actually buy 32 gigs or 64 gigs of actual RAM. The insanity honestly continues. But the thing is, it's not just there where things are getting crazy with China's RAM specifically. It also gets even crazier because now it looks like they're trying to create a massive global market and flood the entire market itself, basically crashing down everything that AI has been trying to build up and self-inflate. Thanks, Jensen. Because RTSG News said this, report, China's RAM manufacturers CMXT and YMTC are going to embark on, quote, unprecedented expansion spree amid global economy shortage. Source, Nikkei Asia. Oh yeah, now we are seeing CXMT and everybody else from the Chinese manufacturers, you know, the same ones that were actually going around doing tactical espionage action to get information on Samsung's 10 nanometer fabs. Those are the same companies now going around and going to be flooding the actual market with their RAM specifically. And it's not just going to be on a couple of places. No, because even Dell and HP are working with those companies and other Chinese RAM manufacturers to avoid working with Samsung, SK Hynix, and even Micron to go ahead and get cheaper RAM to provide better products or cheaper products for you as a customer and consumer. The right way of things to be done, adding more people to the actual fire rather than just relying on the top 3 oligopoly in the RAM production. But the thing is, this is going to impact everyone, and we've talked about this before, how every single piece of technology, in fact, uses RAM, and those exact same companies that we mentioned before, like Samsung, Micron, and SK Hynix, they're also calling people DRAM beggars, as these companies go out and spend thousands upon millions of dollars to then create long-term agreements with these companies and secure those RAM supplies. The problem is that these companies are now operating at a 40 to 50% profit margin, not revenue, actual profit. So clearly, these prices can in fact come down if they wanted them to. We're no longer in a space of things having to be a concern with limited supply. Now we're in a space where these companies are making money hand over fist from every other major conglomerate manufacturer that's making any sort of technology in this space today. And the actual problem is that this entire idea of AI and the data centers and all of this actual pieces of hardware being purchased up and being locked away from a consumer perspective is the fact that it's not only going to be impacting RAM, it's impacting everything else. GPUs like the 5070 Ti from NVIDIA and the 9070 XT are also going to be negatively impacted and getting price increases. Hell, the 5070 Ti can't even be found right now, and there are rumors about it hitting an end-of-life cycle, even though we've caught NVIDIA lying about that, saying we're still going to support these GPUs, you guys, even though they've also talked about how RAM is also a concern for them as well. But hey, let's go ahead and believe the corpos, am I right? The problem is, though, it's impacting everything, even technology that we used to think was good enough back in the day. And I'm not talking about SSDs. No, I'm talking about older. Because according to Tom's Hardware, Western Digital is already sold out of hard drives for all of 2026. Chief says some long-term agreements for 2027 and 2028 are already in place. With the article from Tom's Hardware saying this, quote, "As we highlighted, we're pretty much sold out for calendar 2026. We have firm POs with our top 7 customers," the executive said, "and we've also established long-term agreements with 2 of them for calendar 2027 and 1 of them for calendar 2028. Obviously, these LTAs have a combination of volume, of exabytes, and price. This announcement is on track with the report from late last year that hard drives are on back order for 2 years due to massive data center demand." So we are going back this far to impact actual hard disk drives, the spinning plates, you know, the ones that you used to have on your PlayStation 4 and your PS3 and your Xbox 360. Those are being impacted. Western Digital is sold out of those up until next year, and even then into 2028 as well. And then they turned around and made brand new long-term agreements for other providers too. Boy, it's almost like this entire thing is impacting every single subset of every piece of technology, especially in gaming. Your video game consoles are not made of pixie dust and magic. No, they are not. They are made of motherboards, APUs, CPUs, GPUs, SSDs, and even good old RAM. And they take that RAM and they solder it onto the board, and they need that RAM to make your console actually function. If you truly thought that for some magical reason these companies would in fact take a loss in going around and saving you money, somebody must have flown in from Stupid Town. Because the thing is, it didn't just stop there. No, not only are we having these issues here, it turns out that we may be even seeing a price increase for the Nintendo Switch 2, and also a delay in the next console cycle for PlayStation. It's almost like I've been right the entire time and no one wanted to listen to me now, isn't it? Funny how that happens. Because according to IGN, the AI-fueled chip crisis reportedly may cause a delay to the release of the PlayStation 6 and a price rise for the Switch 2. Oh, well, look at that. Now we're getting actual delays before the consoles are even announced. And the big question is, what's going to be happening in the next generation? We're already seeing little pieces of this happen right now, with Microsoft going around and saying their next console is going to be a premium model, and dare I say even launch in 2027, which to me could lean into one thing specifically. That thing is going to be incredibly expensive, even if Microsoft has been going around and making long-term agreements. And they do have their own AI and data centers, but I feel like what's going to be happening is, if the price is not high on this next generation, which honestly I think it will be, get ready to see the $999 actual console make its insane debut. But I think you're also going to be seeing a lot of Copilot being shoved into that system as well. With the PlayStation, on the other hand, though, we've heard conflicting reports. Everything from the PS5 have tons of RAM to be saved up and no price hikes will happen just yet. But the problem is going to be this: those pieces of RAM will in fact run out, and new long-term agreements will in fact have to be made. And when they are, prices will absolutely increase as well. And if this current generation of consoles continues on to, let's say, the 8 to 9 year mark, we're going to see another price increase. Not just the first time or the second time, but in fact a third time due to actual proper market conditions. The one time they could literally use this right term. The thing is though, we're going to see this increase the floor of console gaming and even gaming itself to astronomical heights, all at the same time while these companies will push you into their online streaming services like GeForce Now and even Game Pass as well. And PlayStation has their own with that with PlayStation Plus 2. Don't act like they're out of this game either. But there's more to the article, so let's see what actually happened, shall we? With IGN saying this as part of a sweeping Bloomberg report on the impact of the ongoing shortage of memory chips, its sources indicated two crucial points on PlayStation and Switch. The first is that Sony is now reportedly considering pushing back the debut of the PlayStation 6 to 2028 or even 2029, which it described would be a major upset to the company's plans. Meanwhile, Nintendo is reported to be considering raising the price of the Switch 2 this year. Neither company has issued a comment in response to the report. If you thought it wasn't going to impact console gaming, well, there's the actual impact. Not only are you going to be having a delay in the next generation of consoles, but you can bet your sweet bippy when the actual long-term agreement runs out with PlayStation right now, those prices are going to increase. The fact that Nintendo is even considering it right now with their Switch 2 goes to show that this is going to be impacting basically everyone. And we've had that conversation before with Furukawa in the past as well in a previous video where he said that things were looking good right now, but there may be a price increase in the future because of the actual crisis happening at this moment. And Nintendo's stock took a tumble because of it. And now we're seeing PlayStation say, hold on, maybe 2028. Possibly even 2029 for the next generation of consoles. Here's the thing though, this may in fact be to the best benefit of PlayStation overall, even though their entire plan is hindered on console sales, because you damn well bet they got no fucking games. But this could be the right play, especially if the AI bubble in fact pops in a couple of years. And if it does and all the actual parts from China flood the market, reducing the actual cost of what it requires for people to buy RAM from companies like CXMT, this could be the beginning stages of watching the actual trioligopoly of Samsung, SK Hynix, and Micron literally fall apart at the seams. My biggest concern for this right now isn't going to be PlayStation, but in fact the actual issues we're seeing with Valve's Steam Machine and the possibility of that PC also being delayed as well, simply because we don't even have the price announcement for that right now. They delayed the announcement for the price when we should have had that already, and even Half-Life 3 as well. But this could be a bigger impact than people actually want it to be or are planning it to be. And I think that's really the problem with all of this. Hell, even in the article, Nintendo's Furukawa even said this. With the article saying this, Furukawa was then asked if Nintendo would consider selling the Switch 2 at a loss in a bid to expand the console's install base. Quote, "The current rise in memory prices is happening at a pace that exceeds our expectations," he said. "In general, the profitability of hardware tends to improve with economies of scale, and we want to continue to reduce costs as much as possible through mass production of the Nintendo Switch 2 hardware. With regards to not selling hardware at a loss, what we are focusing on is profitability on a global basis. There are various external factors, such as fluctuations in exchange rates, but looking at the global picture, we have traditionally tried to avoid situations where individual units are sold at a loss as much as possible. It's difficult to predict the changes in the external environment that are currently taking place, but I think it is not an appropriate approach to be excessively influenced by short-term trends. The second and third years for the Switch 2 are very important, and if we can expand the hardware installed base, we can use that as a basis to greatly expand software sales. And that's coming from Nintendo, so really stop and think about this. Their boards and their APUs are literally made by NVIDIA, the ones at the center of the entire issue with the AI bubble. And if they're having concerns about not selling their systems at a loss, then what the fuck do you think is going to be happening with every other major manufacturer manufacturer in video games today. They are also not going to sell their systems at a loss. They want to make all the profit they possibly can. And with all the RAM manufacturers making 40 to 50% more profit, and China on the doorstep of everybody else telling everyone they're going to flood the actual market with their RAM as well, things are going to get wild before all of this in fact even comes crumbling down. And the funniest part about all of this is they're telling you to your face they're going to increase the prices. Do not sit here and take account as to them saying we're not going to do it just yet, which means they're going to fucking do it. They absolutely will. And when it does happen, I'll be there to laugh every single time. They raised the price of the Pro from the previous generation to this one. It used to be $499 for the PS4 Pro, then it hit $699. Then they went ahead and increased the price of the Pro again to $749. And you can bet your bottom dollar, you thought I was going to say Bippy now, weren't you? Yeah, not for 2 in a row, not on this video. They're going to go ahead and raise the price again to probably $799 or even $849. And then when the next console comes out, if the bubble doesn't pop or China doesn't flood the market with their RAM, get ready for the $899 or $999 console. The entire thing is all done because these companies want to sell at a profit and no longer at a loss. And they're playing a very careful game where they're balancing everything out. If they lose a couple 100,000 sales, that's not a big deal to them because they'll make the money up in the actual amount of revenue and profit that they've made from selling the console at a higher price. They're willing to take the risk, and they know the calculated risk because they've already figured it out from the very beginning. And they know all the simps that we see online every single day will be lining up to buy those systems because they clearly can't help themselves. But there's even more to the article because now IGN and Bloomberg talk about PlayStation as well. The article also says this: earlier this month, Sony waved away concern about potential further PlayStation 5 price rises as a result of the rising cost of memory, insisting it's already in a position to secure the minimum quantity necessary to manage the year-end selling of its next fiscal year. Saying, quote, "Going forward, we intend to further negotiate with various suppliers to secure enough supply to meet the demand of our customers," Lin Tao, Sony's chief financial officer, said. "Given the stage of our console cycle, our hardware sales strategy can be adjusted flexibly, and we intend to minimize the impact of the increased memory cost on this segment going forward by prioritizing monetization of the install base to date and striving to further expand our software and network service revenue." In January, an analyst report suggested that Sony may push the launch of the PS6 beyond 2028 and lengthen the PS5 lifecycle. David Gibson, senior analyst at MST International, who focuses on game and tech companies, predicted that rising memory prices will not impact short-term performance thanks to Sony's existing inventory. However, he noted that increased memory costs could become an issue for Sony in the next fiscal year, ending in March 2027. Saying Sony might pass future cost increases onto consumers. And if you weren't aware, that's exactly what they're going to do. Lin Tao even said it in her own quote. They may not be raising the price of the console just yet, but they sure as shit are going to be increasing the monetization practices that they're implementing on users on their systems right now, which means you're probably going to be seeing a PS Plus price increase, a games price increase, or even then more monetization practices to squeeze out more money from your own little pockets because their little long-term agreement is going to end. And when it does end, that's when they're going to have to renegotiate with Samsung, Micron, and SK Hynix, and then turn around and raise the price back onto you, which I can clearly see them doing by delaying the actual PS6 to 2029, but they're doing a price increase on the PS5 and PS5 Pro, thereby setting themselves up in 2027 and 2028 to go ahead and provide you a $1,000 console in the next generation, just like Xbox, just like Microsoft and their plan as well. And we've seen the rumors going around that the next system will be a premium device, which is also going to be basically a PC, which could really be great because that'll give consumers a great way of actually getting more games on their platform. But the problem is, at what cost will Microsoft choose to go ahead and launch that system? We've already seen everybody say that Xbox dead. Well, the entire process of Microsoft going around and saying everything is an Xbox basically just proves to them they're going to launch that system as a high tier product or a high priced product for those really into this device, and then they're going to have everything everything else basically just be an Xbox, or in fact just a PC, providing access to basically everything. And if you can't afford that, well, you can sign up to their cloud service and stream everything over the air instead. You know, being the good guys and letting you watch a couple of ads before you even get to play for about an hour. Oh, and don't think it's just Microsoft doing it. No, you see, they want to remove access to all the physical devices that you have. And the biggest culprit about all this, Nvidia wants to do the exact same thing. They're the ones pushing time limits on GeForce Now. They're the ones restricting your actual playtime and then creating a higher price increase when you want to play more games. Don't you just love being squeezed out of every nickel and dime you possibly have? And then the one place, the one actual instance and one company that says, you know what, we want to buck the system and break the trend with Valve, they're stuck between a rock and a hard place, because now we don't even know what the price of the Steam Machine is going to in fact be. People were saying $500. I don't think so. I think it's going to be $699 to even $799 for that actual device. I want to be very clear about this. This isn't about trying to fanboy or go around and give out "I told you so." No, what this is about instead is actually going through and admitting to everybody that you should not sit here and defend these companies and corporations. They will do everything they can to get more money out of you. They will sell their products at a higher price to not sell them at a loss, as Furukawa of Nintendo even pointed out that they don't want to do that, even though it would increase their actual user base significantly. They want to make every red cent they possibly can, which is why Nintendo charged $80 for Mario Kart World, which is why they also reduced the price in their home country of Japan, which is why PlayStation was losing ground in their home country of Japan due to the Switch, and they're trying to do that by controlling the market. They know they can sell the Switch 2 at a lower price, but they're choosing not to because they're choosing for profitability instead. And even PlayStation will do the exact same thing. So will Microsoft, so will Nvidia, so will AMD, so will every other company on this planet, because they're going to take advantage of you because of the AI bubble and use the term market conditions. And if you can't buy the system and you can't buy the hardware, they'll sell you the streaming service instead. They'll give you the poison, then feed you the cure. And even then, they're both bad for you. But you know what? I want to hear what you guys have to say about this in the comments section down below. Do you think the PS6 will be delayed into 2028 or even 2029? Or do you think they're just going to go ahead and buckle down, increase the price, and release the system as it is right now? I want to hear what you guys have to say. And speaking about what you guys have to say, here in fact is the comment of the day from yesterday's video. With Lowest Expectations saying this: sad that this industry is infested with so much evil. And Lowest, my friend, you are absolutely correct. Not only are we seeing massive corruption in Discord and online, but we're seeing the exact same evil and corruption happen in the hobby that we all love the most. And that is the saddest part about all of this. But you know what? If you want to see more of this kind of content, though, more PC port reviews, gaming news, Steam Deck videos, my hot takes in the gaming industry, and even live streams every Saturday night at 8:45 p.m. Eastern, subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 109K. And I just want to say thank you guys so very much. It's actually insane. But if you want even more access to more stuff here as well, become a YouTube member. It's as low as $1. What does that get you? It gets you Discord access for, I guess, until the time being, till we find something else, and also emotes during live streams. But if you don't want to spend the buck, don't sweat it. Just come on down Saturday nights, 8:45 p.m. Eastern, live right here on the channel, as I wear a banana suit and get insulted by about 800 people with TTS. It's a hell of a show. You don't want to miss it. Saturday nights, 8:45 p.m. Eastern, live right here on the channel. With all that being said, though, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a great one, and I'll see you gooners next time. Peace!